Ladies and gentlemen, as you guys know, this week has been huge for Call of Duty. We have a brand new Warzone map, a new season, new stories, and of course, as you guys know, when it comes to Call of Duty, one of my favorite things is covering the story. We have tons of videos on it, and it seems like you guys enjoy it too. Now, the thing is with this new Warzone map that came out, there's also a brand new story. But what I wanted to do today is a little bit different. I wanted to take a look back at the entire Warzone story that we have had so far, the 2020 Verdansk, if you want to call it that, and look at the very beginning of the story, how it originated, all the way up to how it ended. Because yesterday we saw the very end of the overall story, and I kind of wanted to wrap it all up into one video and give it to you guys on a silver platter. So if you enjoy it, this would be really appreciated if you'd hit that like button. It took a lot of effort to put this video together. So if you enjoy, please hit that like button. And without further ado, this is the full story of Warzone and the full story of 2020 Verdansk. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Modern Warfare was one of my favorite Call of Duty campaigns ever, which was shocking. But what's even more shocking than that is when I look back on it, the entire campaign of Modern Warfare 2019 was just a prequel to what was to come next. It was sparking the entire story of Warzone and everything that we know today. You see, at the end of Modern Warfare, what ends up happening is you take out Roman Barkov. And with this, it creates a massive power vacuum within Russia. And throughout the campaign, you also take out other characters like the Wolf. And because of this, it allows for a brand new bad guy to raise to power and be the new leader of Al-Qatala.
Нет, нет, умоляю, пожалуйста.
Now, we didn't know this at the time, but this was actually our first look at Verdansk in the downtown area where we see Khalid al-Assad rise to power. Now, at the time, like I said, Warzone wasn't released, so they carried on this story through Spec Ops. And at the time, their response to Khalid al-Assad was to put together a joint task force known as Armistice. This was a combination of coalition and allegiance soldiers and essentially America and Russia working together. Now, at the time, this was necessary because it wasn't only Khalid al-Assad, but a new mysterious character known as Mr. Z, who we could recognize as Imran Zakhaev, who was of course working as the gun runner for Khalid al-Assad, who I still believe is Hadir Karim, but we'll have to put that one on the back burner until we get a future Modern Warfare game. So at this point, what we knew was Khalid al-Assad, with the help of what we assumed was Imran Zakhaev, later we found out it was Viktor Zakhaev, was then raiding Verdansk, and the response was to create Armistice to counteract this raid. This is when we saw our first season, Season 1.
Kamarov, AQ Hilo in my sights.
Take it down.
Roger, stand by. Target destroyed.
General Lyons, this is Mara. AQ Hilo down north of my position.
Copy. Get in there. Confirm enemy KIA.
Raj, on the move. I'm eyes on. Payload appears to be gas canisters. Contact! General, I got a Legion firing on my position!
Now here's what's fascinating about the Season 1 cutscene. It didn't make sense at the time. We had coalition and allegiance soldiers. You had Mara and you had Nikto. And at the time, they were supposed to be working together inside allegiance. And as the cutscene ended and it zoomed out, you saw all of a sudden Khalid al-Assad inside broadcast or TV station in Verdansk saying, "Don't worry about it, let them fight." And at the time, this didn't make any sense because we thought allegiance and coalition were supposed to be working together. This cutscene never made any sense until we moved on to later seasons. Now, one thing I haven't touched on yet is at the end of the campaign of Modern Warfare, we get a cutscene between Kate Laswell and Captain Price, where Captain Price expresses his basically feelings that he would like to put together a task force to take down Khalid al-Assad. This task force, of course, being Task Force 141. And with this, he wanted to recruit certain soldiers like Ghost, Soap, Alex, Gaz, and that is essentially a part of the story of Warzone, is putting together this task force to take down Khalid al-Assad and to take down Viktor Zakhaev. And the first time we see this task force really start to get pieced together is in Season 2. This cutscene picks up inside of the airport, and in here, again, an area that we did not know was a thing yet. We didn't know Verdansk was going to be this giant map and that airport was going to be one of the locations. But at this point, we get introduced to one of the members of Task Force 141, Ghost, or Simon Riley, and he says something very important to Captain Price.
Price, something's wrong in Verdansk. They're targeting their own. We need to find out why. Send fighters I can trust.
So at this point, we pretty much figure out that the Armistice soldiers are turning on each other, and Ghost asks for Price to send soldiers that he can trust. But at this point, we zoom out, and for the first time, we get to see an overview of Verdansk, and it was shortly later in that season that we got the launch of Warzone. Now, during the launch, there really wasn't a ton more information added to the story until Season 3.
Simon. Price. Can you talk? I can listen.
Zakhaev's plan is working. The Armistice in Verdansk is officially fallen. It's bloody chaos.
So at this point, what we find out is that Armistice has now officially fallen, and everything in Verdansk is falling completely apart. So just like Ghost asked in Season 2, Captain Price sends him some operators that he can trust.
Echo 3-1, reporting for duty.
Alex. Thought you were dead.
Still standing.
You ready for a gunfight?
Let's get evil.
Moving into Season 4, Verdansk had officially fallen, and we got an update as to what exactly was going on here. Viktor Zakhaev, whose father was Imran Zakhaev, was smuggling weapons and giving them to Khalid al-Assad, who again, I still think is Hadir. But at this point, he was trying to take over Verdansk and using the Al-Qatala army to do so. The interesting thing is at this point, we started to see Allegiance and Coalition completely tear apart, but we didn't know why until we got a few specific pieces of intel. Now, intel was a thing that you could search around the map for, and it would give you clues and pieces of information as to what was going on in Verdansk. Some of the first ones that we got were images that showed that it was actually the Armistice soldiers carrying out some of the attacks around Verdansk. And shortly after this, we found that Zakhaev Arms was actually paying off some of the Armistice soldiers to work against whether that be the Allegiance or the Coalition. And this is when Season 5 picked up, because Season 5 got interesting because we were no longer looking at Allegiance or Coalition soldiers, but rather a new company by the name of Shadow Company. Now, I'm just going to be totally honest here. The whole Shadow Company storyline didn't really extend much further than Season 5. Essentially, their big role was coming in and trying to hunt down the Al-Qatala army, but their big claim to fame was simply blowing up the stadium, which of course was a big change for the map, but overall doesn't really affect the story. Similarly, in the final season of Modern Warfare, Season 6, we once again saw a very similar thing.
To move through Verdansk unnoticed.
He had the tunnels but no trains. Can you power them?
If you buy me some time, yes.
3 enemies heading your way, Nick.
Then keep them out.
So Season 6 was the addition of Nikolai and Farah to the Task Force 141 crew, which is going to come into play later, but didn't really have a huge effect on the story as a whole. At this point, they powered up the subway stations, and of course, that was just another change to the map. And from here, Task Force 141 was pretty much complete, except for the addition of Soap. And that's where one of the strangest cutscenes of all time comes in. And the reason why I say it's the strangest cutscene is because it seemingly came out of nowhere. It was released with the final pieces of intel on the Verdansk 2020 map, and with it we see the entire Task Force 141 crew kind of come together, because during this cutscene, Viktor Zakhaev is trying to launch the missiles inside the bunkers, and of course, Captain Price is having none of that.
Show yourself. You're wasting your time.
Victor. Captain Price. I am not surprised.
You're a dead man, Zakhaev.
I started a war. Killing me won't stop it.
Oh, I won't kill you. But the fool will wait. All stations. Zakhaev is dead, but the missile is not. Nick, I need the codes now.
So at the end of the cutscene, Nikolai ends up getting Captain Price the nuclear codes and stops the launch, and of course all is saved. But as we find out at the end of this cutscene, which is strange because it very much so seemed like the end of the story, Captain Price once again comes on with the entire Task Force 141 crew behind him, and we find out that the story is not quite over. First of all, Soap McTavish is just off the coast, and the battle is not yet won.
McTavish to actual.
So, what's your position?
Have a click off the coast. Things are really heating up out here.
Hold tight. We're moving your way. On me.
So at this point, Black Ops Cold War was out, and inside of Warzone, we've already seen a ton of pieces of intel tying Adler and Perseus into the story of Verdansk, but we didn't really have an answer as to what was currently happening and why this story was still going on, until the beginning of Season 2 of Black Ops Cold War. At this point, something finally happened in Warzone. So at this point, Viktor Zakhaev was dead. However, Khalid al-Assad was still there, and he was still technically fighting al-Assad's forces. But at this point, there was a new threat in town. With the Vodyanoi crashing up upon shore, it brought a new enemy. Zombies. And these zombies very quickly started to spread around Verdansk, going from shipwreck to prison, hospital, bank, superstore, dam, and all of a sudden the area was overrun. And not to mention, as the zombies were dying around Verdansk, they were leaving behind giant, massive radioactive areas that were harmful for you to go inside. And with this, Verdansk had fallen. And all of a sudden, we get a new event where your job is no longer to try to save Verdansk, but rather simply evacuate. And at this point, Rebirth Island is trying to control what is going on in Verdansk. They know Verdansk has fallen, and now their only job is to stop the zombies from spreading anywhere else. So they take drastic measures, they arm the nukes, and then launch them. And from off in the distance, we see a missile travel through the air and strike right by Stadium. And thus is the end of Verdansk 2020. Now, at this point, we don't know what came of the people in Verdansk. We don't know whether Captain Price made it out. We don't know whether Khalid al-Assad was there and which characters survived and which did not. But what we do know is that the story is continuing, but this time not in the year 2020. This time we are learning about the past of Verdansk, how Verdansk came to be and grew into this metropolis that right now Perseus and Adler are in. And that is the story that we have coming next. But so far, this has been the story of Verdansk 2020 and how it went from a war zone to a dead zone.